This is the Salty and Wired podcast. It's a conversation between two salty and wired guys who worked in the construction industry but then found a connection through technology. We're dedicated to sharing ancient tools with modern people. Each episode, we're going to dive into a tool that we think can help you live a better life. So get ready, buckle up, get ready to get just a little bit uncomfortable. It's time to create your blueprint for change right now. All right. Greetings out there. Thanks so much again for hitting that play button and coming along on this experiment. This is Rob McKinney. I'm joined by my brother in breath, Ian Gray. How you doing today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. It's about 20 degrees out. And I'm in
It's been
South
a
Carolina.
wild week.
Yeah, so for those that live up north, they're like, "What are you talking about?" But I live in South Carolina. It's cold.
Yeah, there's no pity party above the Mason-Dixon line, if you know where that place is in the United States. Everyone up north looking down. I talked to a few people that I know up in Canada this week. They're talking about 12 to 13 centimeters of snow. I didn't want to tell them about the weather where I was at down in the Republic of Texas this week. So, yeah. Well, appreciate everybody zoning in with us. And the idea, this is an experiment. Ian and I talk a lot about different things. And we talk about tools. We talk about struggles of modern life in this crazy VUCA world, if you know what that is. And that's what we're doing this show. Coming together, have talks. We want to talk to you about what we'll call a tactical concept each show. Give you two sides of a coin, kind of see where it goes. Ian, what are you thinking about today, man?
Oh man, my mind is all over the place. Um, and you know what? That's actually a good segue into what we're going to be talking about today. um, yeah, so I think a good place to start is, why is Ian's mind all over the place today? Because I guarantee a lot of people listening in right now, they're like, "Hey, my mind is all over the place too." And if you're in construction, right, forget about it. I don't know one person in construction whose mind isn't all over the place. All the way up from the CEOs, right? Especially nowadays
Mm-hmm.
with how volatile the world just seems to be, right? And all the uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
All the way down to, I don't want to say down because there's no judgment on this show, right? But all the way over
Mm-hmm.
to laborers and people maybe cleaning the offices of these construction companies, right? Everybody's minds are all over the place these days. So yeah, I think why don't we dig into the concept of, and this is going to make some people cringe, ADHD.
If it makes you cringe, you'll just have to wonder a little bit because I haven't been diagnosed with it, but when I read about the clinical definition, I'm fairly certain I might be diagnosed with some flavor of it. I can remember, dude, back in school, elementary school, middle school, my report cards used to say, Robert can't stop talking. Robert can't sit in his desk. Robert can't, it was all these Robert can'ts, right? And it was, yeah, I have a very active mind. Those squirrels you talked about, I see them. Mine are already on the hamster wheel because I'm trying to stay focused and talk to you. But then my mind's already like, got to fly today, got to drive home. There's all those gotta do's, like what you're talking about in the construction industry of they're working these crazy schedules that are being compressed. I've heard it for the last several days. I've been at a construction conference for safety professionals, and they're being pressed so hard on the job to get it done faster. Like, can you give me to me a week faster, 2 weeks faster, even a day faster? So that compression, it just adds up into your head of you get up and you're trying to live your life, but you have a family, you have work to do. I think everybody's got a little touch in modern life. It's like, it's not this stigma, like there's those few broken toys in the corner. Like, we all got a lot of stuff going on in the brain, and it's really hard to slow it down and figure out which one should I really be doing right now.
Yeah, but it goes a lot deeper than that too, right? Because I mean, the modern life, yeah, it just requires constant attention and constant focus on a lot of plates spinning. But ADHD, it's a little different, and I learned this. I was actually officially diagnosed with ADHD a little while ago. And similar to you, I look back and for those that have ADHD diagnosis, or even those that don't, when you look back in your life and you hear things like Rob can't sit still. Ian is not living up to his potential. Like all these things, right? It all starts making sense, you know? But what I've learned after talking to a lot of quote unquote experts, right? And I'm not an expert at ADHD. I'm not ever going to claim to be. But what I've learned is that uh, there is a scientific thing happening in the brain, right? That's different than just
Hmm.
your, and I don't want to say normal, all right, but a typical, what they say is neurotypical. The neurotypical brain still struggles with focusing on everything just because of modern life. But an ADH brain, there's a dopamine thing that's happening there where, not enough dopamine is being triggered. And so that's affecting how we're approaching a lot of these struggles in life, right? And it manifests differently for a lot of people. Like if you just pull up WebMD, you're gonna hear all the things that we've heard before, like can't sit still, can't focus. But there's a lot of other things that happen that come along with ADHD, and um, it's individual, right? It pertains to
Hmm.
each individual, and so that's what I want to talk about today. Is really when you think about construction, right? I have a theory, can't prove it. I have a theory that ADHD, similar to a lot of other mental health challenges that the industry faces, is probably a little more prevalent in construction than in other industries. And let me tell you why. I don't know that construction causes it, right? I don't think it does. But I think construction actually attracts on two fronts people that are prone to or prevalent with ADHD. Okay. On one track, I mean, think about our generation, and hopefully this is changing a little bit now, but in our generation, it's all the kids that couldn't focus in school, that couldn't sit still, that weren't getting good grades. And like it or not, construction was always the fallback career, right? So for those kids that come up through the system and maybe, formal structured education is not a good fit for them, they were kind of forced into construction, right? And then on the other side of that coin, the people who, like me, right, who didn't know that they might have had ADHD, but sort of learned to cope and lean into some of the characteristics and try to exploit them to their benefit, are drawn into construction, right? Because what else soothes the ADHD brain more than constant crisis mode, right? Constant hero. For those people who think that they do their best work under pressure, that might be ADHD. And so, like I said, two fronts. You got people who are kind of forced into the industry because their brains weren't functioning like those without ADHD, and then those who are naturally drawn to construction because of all the moving pieces, all the little micro dopamine hits that the industry provides.
Spot on, man. It's almost like, I don't want to say crutch. Crutch is the wrong word, but if you have a super active mind, if you're always on the go, if you do have trouble sitting still for long periods of time and focus, to your point, yeah, construction is actually like your wonderland because all it does is you are constantly bouncing from ball to ball to ball to ball. You stay constantly stimulated, but I will say for me, there does come the downside of when you stay in a hyperactive state, hours on hours, days on days, weeks on weeks, years on years, when you don't know how to turn it off. That sometimes I will say from my side of the table, it doesn't turn out good when you don't know how to, and control's probably too strong of a word. Let's say manage. You can't stay in a hyperactive state all the time, 24/7, 7 days a week. Doesn't turn out
Mhm.
good. At least it did
No,
not for me.
no. Well, then you start getting into your stress response and things like that. You know,
Oh yeah, my
um,
body reacted very violently.
let me pose this question out there. Right, what does this sound like? Peak performance during crisis mode. Right, ADHD brains they run on urgency. Right, the chaos that stresses once again what they call neurotypical people is
Mm.
where construction folks lock in. Right, um,
Mm.
that might be ADHD. Pattern recognition at scale, right? And this is something that I
Ooh.
learned. For those that know me, you know that I recognize patterns sometimes to my detriment. But when you can see connections that a lot of other people are missing, think about like the PM who's identifying structural issues and what the ramifications are 10 steps down the road, right? A lot of times that might be ADHD, right? So people with
Dude,
ADHD
how about
tend
the
to,
safety person that all day, every day is looking for no safety glasses, not tied off, no harness? They're all day looking for squirrels.
well, and think about this, they're all day looking for patterns, right? And they're
Yep,
identifying them. What's the whole
yep.
idea, the whole theory of root cause analysis is how do we recognize patterns at scale?
Mm-hmm.
And then here's something that a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't realize that I never knew. Hyper focus. I'm like, what? I thought ADHD was you can't focus. And that's true. But on the flip side, hyper focus when it really matters, like when something catches your interest, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know when you can do 12 hours of work and forget to eat, forget to even breathe, it's not always discipline, right? It's
Mm-mm.
chemistry, man.
Mm-mm.
It's the dopamine. So the trick is to engineer situations, right? Where
Mm.
the work that you're doing is actually creating urgency, creating deadlines, and engaging. So that's all positive stuff, right? That's all stuff of why ADHD brains actually thrive in the industry. But
100%.
there's a dark side.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is this is why brains don't thrive in the industry because along with all of the stuff that we just talked about, think about all the paperwork, the administrative quicksand is what I call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
like kryptonite for me. It's like kryptonite for a lot of people, and you and I, we're tech bros now. Um, Technology is based around how do we eliminate this administrative quicksand? Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what is kryptonite for projects and for the individuals that are running projects, right?
Oh, yeah. What is that word we keep hearing about it? It breeds complacency.
It does.
Reading the same papers, let's say it's that safety pro. I got safety on the mind because I've been hanging out with safety pros all week. How many PTPs do they have to look at and review in a day? Safety meeting minutes, going over all the stuff again and again and again. That's where I was showing them the beauty of AI. I'm not saying that AI does it all for you, but it can do a little bit faster for you and flag and raise those deltas you're looking for. Because that's what, let's be honest, the safety pros are looking for the delta of like who wrote a crappy PTP or what's incomplete, what was missing. They're trying to find it. Well, if you look at 50 of them, are you really as fresh on 47 as you were on 3?
No.
Maybe. Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah.
They're also burned out. I just saw a room full of burned out humans from what you're talking about, that mundane paperwork. Let's just say it's a compliance-based review in the United States, but
Yeah.
it could
Well,
happen
another,
just as easily with tickets, time cards.
what also burns people out, and this got me, is showing up to work, to your family, showing up as quote unquote, and I hate this word, but quote unquote normal. It takes a lot of, and Rob, I mean, you know me. There are so many times where I'd show up and I'd be normal at work, but underneath, I'm having a hard time remembering names, having a hard time restraining, blurting out what I'm thinking. All that burns energy to be putting on a
Mm-hmm.
facade, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, that's why I think, in construction, we attract and in tech, right? We attract
Mm-hmm.
ADHD brains. And then in a lot of cases, a lot of people with ADHD are sort of forced into these types of roles.
Totally. So, what's a couple hacks that you've developed for you that you can share? Like maybe you've identified you have it, or maybe you think you have it, or you just want to improve. What are a couple hacks that you've leaned into that help you with your case?
I don't want to call them hacks, but the first thing is the most important. Listen, I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't say that out loud, but I am. And
Oh, good. I'm 53, dude. It's just a number.
well, you and I've been living with this shit for years and years, and most people have, and so when we hear about ADHD and depression, which we should probably queue up another episode about the links between ADHD and depression, because they're there. Another reason why this industry needs to pay attention to this. But being open to the fact that, dropping the stigma, just like every other mental challenge or mental state that people are dealing with, dropping the stigma is the first hack, if you want to call it that. But it's not a hack. It's just accepting that there are different types of brains that function differently. One's not better than the other. They're just different. But some of the things that I've been exploring and talking to people who have been exploring and have been doing for decades that are impactful, external structure will beat willpower 100% of the time. Okay. And when we talk about burning out, it's because a lot of people are relying on their own willpower to get through the day or to get through a project. I mean, setting up timers and alarms and systems, right? That your brain's not going to remember to do something, but a system will, right? Use your phone, and it doesn't have to be any sort of expensive phone app. You could just use notes and simple reminders, right? That is so powerful. Okay. Movement breaks, of course, because ADHD brains, they need movement. They need dopamine. Okay. And so throw in 10 minutes of walking, right? And do some breathing exercises, based off of last week, right? Do some breathing exercises while you're walking. It doesn't need to be a 2-hour walk. Just take 5-10 minutes. Change your scenery, change the view. That's a little dopamine hit for your brain. And that will be more impactful than just hours and hours of grinding on end. Okay. I've tried medication. You know this. This is one of the reasons why we started this show. I've been on a couple different medications, and they have done wonders for my lack of executive functioning. Let's just call it that. Unfortunately for me, they were jacking up my sleep at night. Now, that is not typical. A lot of people function really well on medication. They don't have good side effects. But I have some other issues that were kind of interfering with my sleep patterns. And for someone who's struggled with depression or struggling with ADHD or in construction where you're not getting much sleep, sleep is one of the most important things that you can do for your body and for your brain. But being open to medication, because for most people, it does work and it works well. This, by the way, legal disclaimer, we are not doctors. We are not diagnosing, treating, or curing any disease. Please speak with your primary care doctor or specialist before investigating medication. I'm just explaining my story and my opinion. But here's my favorite one, Rob. It's something called body doubling. Now, I've been doing this for years, and I didn't even know what I was doing. And when I found out about body doubling, I was like, holy shit, this is totally me. So body doubling is working near someone else, even silently, right? Because it creates accountability. And that accountability is what your brain responds to. Okay, that's just the brain wiring. And a lot of people in construction feel like they're working next to people. And a lot of times they are, right? Where you can say, hey, we're both, looking through our PTPs, or we're both managing a change order. But think about in tech, especially in a remote setting, for those BDRs, SDRs, AEs out there that are, sitting in their basements or in their offices, cold calling, getting rejected all day, every day, working with prospects and trying to get deals across the finish line, things like that. Not having somebody next to you for the ADHD brain is once again kryptonite. And so in my experience, I would call other AEs and I would call other BDRs, and I would set a time block where we say, hop on a Zoom call together and let's just blitz this out. And we wouldn't even talk to each other. We were just there, and we could kind of banter on the side and things like that. And holy shit, Rob, the amount of work that we got done just by having somebody, body doubling with us during the work was fantastic. Right. And so those are some of the things that I've seen help. Right. So structure was the second one. Movement breaks, potentially medication, talk to your doctor. and then body doubling. Okay. Um, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily hacks, but those are all things that people can try.
Yeah, hack's kind of a weird word in the modern sense. Maybe let's call them tactical tools,
Ooh, I love that.
tactical strategies. How do you optimize your day? Because, man, I feel you. I have been a remote worker for 10 years. That lack of physical proximity, I've heard our brother Chad Pearson at Plexus, he
Hmm.
has a whole presentation about this lack of human connection. It's why their team's so militant. They're all based around Toronto for a reason. Us being remote workers, solo workers, I have seen that, man, especially during the early stages of the pandemic, that first 6 months when everyone was now coming to, Zoom meetings or team, or when, companies you're trying to call in and they can't remember, they don't know how to turn on the camera. Well, I remember that 12 months, I had a little old school office in a downtown small town in North Georgia. It was me in a building and a seamstress all the way at the other end. Everyone else was staying at home, but I knew I had to go to the building because get out of the house, do the things. But it was like the shining every day of walking up the stairs, walking down the hall. But it is, to your point, weird. I've gotten used to physically working in a solo office by myself. But then I go to these streams. I've been at a conference all week with 400 safety professionals. So I have had a little bit of the kind of creepy feeling. I'm like, there's a lot of people here. This is serious compression. This is the first couple of days was woo. Then I started getting, like you were talking about, the dopamine hit, that shared energy connection. Yesterday, having all these amazing conversations, but it took me a couple of days to come out of caveman mode and be like, oh, I'm hanging out with a big herd now. This is kind of cool.
Hmm.
It is weird, man. Well, dude, I appreciate you sharing, telling everybody a little bit about what's going on inside your head. Hopefully, these tactics, if they sound good, try them out. Let us know if they work. If they don't, let us know it doesn't work. We are not doctors. We're not trained professionals. We're just two dudes with some stories, some shared experiences. So, as we
Some
wrap
good, some
this up,
bad.
oh, 100%. There's been a lot of cool things we've both seen. There's a little bit of, weird stuff. So we wrap this up. I'll leave one for you to try out. And I've seen this because you talked about the digital side, the phones, and I know how my brain works. There's one easy tactic or hack you can try. Go grayscale. Turn the
Yes.
color off that phone. It's a whole lot less shiny object. It's no longer your precious. I don't know what it is about the brain, right? And the colors and the reception, because those things are designed, let's be honest, to stay in your hand. So, number one, turn it gray, turn to grayscale. And this one came from my buddy Chad Pearson too. When you are at work and you are trying to lock in and do that focused work and do your thing, put that phone out of reach. Like, go stick it across the room, put it in your bag. Because if it's near, and I'll even go a step further, like an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, anything that can be on you that hums, dings, buzzes, vibrates, get it away from you. You need a zone of calm, right? A zone of focus. But we've gotten so used to these things like Slack or Teams or whatever, and you're getting emails and then you're getting dings, and that doesn't, for me, that doesn't help the brain, right? Like that's too much.
Hmm.
So turn it gray, turn it dark, and get it away from you
Yes.
physically.
What I've
See
done,
if that
I
helps.
love, I love the grayscale hack or tip. Now, listen, I take a lot of photos on my phone, and not just like snapping a photo at the beach or whatever. But I mean, you've seen some of my photography,
Mm-hmm.
and I need color. And I learned this just a couple of weeks ago to set up a little shortcut on my phone where I can toggle color on and off just for whatever I'm doing.
Nice,
And so I still have it in grayscale. And there have been
nice.
times when my brain just automatically defaulted to grabbing my phone to do the check text, check email, check Slack, blah, blah, blah. And I pick it up and seeing in grayscale, I'm like, oh, that seems like a lot of work. And I put it down. And I love it. Great hack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Rob, can I just say one more thing before we wrap up here? I just want to say for those that think they might have ADHD, um, regardless of whether you decide to get evaluated professionally or not, that's up to you. I just want to say it's not a superpower. Okay, the superpower it's not ADHD itself. All right, but what the superpower is, and this goes for folks with ADHD and those without, It's just knowing, and this takes some work. You got to be willing to put in the work, but knowing intimately how your brain actually works, not how everybody
Hmm.
else's brains should work, not what LinkedIn tells you our brains should work like. Know how your brain works. I'm still exploring this for myself, as are you. We all are.
Hmm.
Explore your brain, understand how it works, and then build systems to lean that can actually engage that. Build systems around how it works instead of fighting it. Fighting it is the worst thing that I could ever do, and I would imagine for a lot of people, and for those that are in leadership roles, uh, be open to this. Be open to a workplace, understanding that, I would never say ask if your employees have ADHD or anything like that, but understand, be a little flexible that people's brains work
Hmm.
differently, and if
Hmm.
you and I were sitting in the same office, our brains are working differently, Rob. If you're a leader, understand that your team's brains might be working a little differently, and try to set up systems or seek someone who can help you set up systems to fully engage the unique brains and talents that we all come to work with.
That's a mic drop right there, man. That's beautiful words. I love it. I love it. Well, that's all the time we got for this episode. Thank you for listening. I hope these tactics, these tools, these ideas, they helped you out. Thanks for listening. This has been the Salty and Wired podcast, where we hope that you got a nugget of wisdom from this conversation. Now it's time for you to go out and try a tool, something we discussed. We want you to build your blueprint for change. Be well.